evening, councillors, officers and members of the public meeting on the council. If I could just give you a few reminders, please switch your mobile phones to silent. There are members of the public and press attending this meeting virtually. Can I ask those attending virtually to switch off their microphones to avoid any disruption during the meeting? This meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. Reminder to councillors, to ensure that those attending virtually and in person can hear the proceedings and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you wait for the microphone and speak clearly into the microphone. Please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to each other by first names. When addressing the council, please stand if you are able to do so. This is a message for everybody. There is no fire alarm found, therefore upon hearing a constant two-tone alarm, please leave the building by your nearest marked fire exit and make your way down the stairs to the nearest assembly point, which is the short stay car park. Lifts are not to be used. Please do not take time to pick up personal belongings and leave the building privately. Apologies for absence, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Received apologies from Councillors Hunt, Caroline Lever, Peter Lever, Room and Turton, Chair.
Item 2, to approve as the correct records of minutes of the meetings held on the 27th of March 2024. Can I have a minute, please? Thank you, Councillor York. Seconder, Councillor Masson. Thank you. Item 3, Chair's announcement. Sorry, we vote on the approval of minutes. Item 3, Chairman's announcements. Do have a couple of announcements. Just a reminder that we have the special policy meeting tomorrow evening on dentistry, which will take place here at 6:30. And next Wednesday we have a webinar on health. Yeah, Councillor York would just like to say a couple of words about that.
Thank you, can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, it's just a reminder for members that next Wednesday webinar is really around services that are available to help improve the health outcomes for street attached and or drink and drug addicted people. Hopefully it will help to dispel a few myths and obviously, give you the information you need to support, services and those people. Okay, thank you.
Questions brought forward with or by the consent of the chair. I have none. Item 5, replying to any questions submitted by the public and sought to receive petitions and start for council procedure rules, paragraphs 89 of the Constitution, not received. Right. Item 6, to consider motions of which notice has been submitted by members in accordance with Part 4 Council Procedure Rules, paragraph 11 of the Constitution. We have one motion. I've just got something to read before I pass to Councillor Knight. Given the level of interest, it is considered that this motion, which in its wording states to be referred to the Strategy and Resources Committee, should be dealt with at this meeting. It is therefore proposed that this council procedure rules in the Constitution be waived to allow for this motion to be determined at this full council meeting, and additionally give an opportunity to any councillors who consider they have a prejudicial non-vegetable interest to speak, should they wish to do so, prior to the item being subject to deliberation and vote. I'm moving that from the chair. Can I have a second, please? And vote, please. Councillor Richard Knight.
Thank you, Chair. This is a motion submitted by myself. I'm a Green Party councillor, but it's not a Green Party motion. I'm a member of the independent group on this council, but it is not a motion from the independent group. And I stress this is not a motion submitted by North Devon Council. However, I did not write the motion. It is a national initiative which is being introduced by councils throughout the country by interested individuals, groups and councillors. It's already been adopted by Oxford County Council in 21, Cambridge City Council and Norwich City Council last year, Calderdale and the Lewisham District Council, a long list of town councils, and recently near at home by Exeter City Council. I need to emphasise that this motion is not anti-farming. It is pro-sustainable agricultural methodology and alludes to the way forward to address the ongoing crisis in farming. I am the lead member for climate and biodiversity. It is my portfolio to represent this council's goal to achieve net zero by 2030. This specific policy is common to every council in the land. Achieving this will be extremely complex. The motion alludes to the problems that afflict UK farming: climate change, how to adapt, how to mitigate, how to follow the science and respond to government policies, and to established leading institutions like the WWF, the Soil Association, Climate Change Committee, the WHO and the IPCC, plus internationally respected individuals, not least Sir David Attenborough, and I quote, "We must change our diet. The planet cannot support billions of meat eaters. Shift away from meat and dairy to a plant-based diet, and the source of energy goes directly to growing food, using but a quarter of the land." Some stats. 40% of the UK's most productive land is used to grow livestock feed. That's 2/5 of the UK's arable land, 2 million hectares approximately. In 2020, imports of animal feed to the UK exceeded £3 billion. 36 billion chickens, sheep, pigs and cows are slaughtered every year, emitting between 14 and 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than the combined emissions from all forms of transportation. Phasing out reliance on animal agriculture within 15 years would result in a 68% reduction in global emissions this century. The Climate Change Committee, an independent UK statutory body, recommends that people reduce their meat and dairy consumption by 20 to 50% and encourages the public sector to shift to less carbon-intensive diets. This motion needs to be seen in the spirit of this council's commitment to North Devon's farming community, as illustrated by the expert panel we welcomed here on the 23rd in this building on the 23rd of May. British farmers are indeed the very best. Their commitment to husbandry, the landscape and quality food production sets a standard that few other countries can ever get near to. But their livelihoods have been adversely affected by a series of issues: the CAP, Brexit, COVID, the war in Ukraine, labour shortages, biodiversity loss, pressures of diversification, spasmodic government grants and subsidies. I haven't caught up with the King's speech today, but I think we have more information tomorrow. The degradation of the soil, offsetting, rewilding, the stranglehold of supermarkets, the fluctuations in the international markets, food security, intensive farming, and of course the ongoing climate crisis. The weather, the seasons, drought, flooding, 19% down on your incomes last year because of flooding. It adds up to a perfect storm, to a complete nightmare of which we are all aware. This motion is not suggesting that we stop eating meat, that meat and dairy farms should need to close, certainly not here in North Devon, which is an exemplar of good practice, best practice. It needs to be seen as part of an incremental transition to a more sustainable and healthy food production system in the UK. It can sometimes seem that we are lost in a dark place. So many issues seem to divide us now, and this can lead to impasse. The solution has to be open debate and the airing of opposing viewpoints. But this transition has to be a just transition in the way that closing the coal mines was not a just transition. Generally speaking, people do not like change. Industrialization being the catalyst for what is termed Luddism. That is why I stress the term just transition. To move to renewables does not mean rendering the 750,000 people employed in the UK energy sector redundant. Moving to the electrification of transport does not mean unemployment for the 185,000 employees in the automotive sector. And transitioning to plant-based food production does not mean the overnight collapse of the 11,000 dairy farms. But if we are to achieve our professed target of net zero by 2050, something, well, a lot, has to change, and it won't be pain-free or clearly popular. The alternatives certainly won't be popular either. There are parts of this motion which could possibly should be amended, and I welcome that input, just as I welcome the attendance this evening of many of our colleagues from the farming community. It asks that the motion be delegated to the Strategy and Resources Committee for consideration at a later date. Thank you, Chair.
So, do we have anybody else who wishes to speak for the motion? No, second, do we have a second for the motion? Councillor Howard.
I speak from here.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm Mark Aylesworth, member for Langley. As there is a great wealth of farming knowledge and experience in this council and in this room, I had to ask myself what I could bring to this debate. Unlike other members of my family, I've not worked in farming, horticulture, or as an agricultural contractor. I thought of my father, who served in the Ministry of Food during the Second World War, focused on maximising potato production in South East England. I don't have half of his knowledge and wisdom, but I think we, like my parents, are living in a time of existential threat. Theirs was fascism and total war. They lived under the flight path of the V-bombs. Our existential crisis is climate breakdown and ecological disaster. I've been campaigning for urgent action on the climate emergency for 20 years. My wife and I were in the House of Commons to see the Climate Change Act passed in 2008. It seemed like a turning point. Unfortunately, it wasn't. We now face ever-rising global heating, and our country has become one of the most nature-depleted in the world. I'm sure we all want to pass on our planet and our beloved countryside to our children in as good or better condition than we found it. At present, we are failing very badly in achieving this. So you can see how I approach such things as a plant-based diet. What clearly feels extreme to some seems to me, given the crisis we're in, well worth discussing and perhaps adapting to suit North Devon's rich farming culture. I'm not saying I agree with all of the ideas in motion, but I support its basic point, which is to request that this complicated but vital issue be considered by the able councillors who serve on our Strategy and Resources Committee. They might find a clever way to give our behaviours a gentle nudge in the right direction. I would therefore like to second the motion. Thank you, Chair.
I do have a couple of people who actually asked me to speak before council meeting, so I can say things.
Thank you.
Well, I'm pleased that Councillor Ricky Knight's motion recognises the huge contributions made by our farmers to the local economy and the rural community of North Devon, and recognises the need for farmers to be appropriately supported to deal with the challenges of farming in an increasingly unstable climate and a cost of living crisis. Unfortunately, I'm sad to say that I believe that this motion does exactly the opposite of what the mover intends, and that it goes about dealing with the climate change situation in totally the wrong way. To illustrate what I mean, I will tell you a little about my background. I was brought up on a small mixed farm in southeast Cornwall. Yes, I'm Cornish, but please don't hold that against me. On the farm in the Tamar Valley area, my parents grew all sorts of vegetables to supply our relatives who had small shops in Plymouth and Pensilva. And as a lad, I knew what it was to pull a ton of rhubarb, pick 100 weights of peas, broad beans and runner beans, and pick lots of strawberries, raspberries and all the rest of it. In addition, we grew a couple of acres of barley each year, and we had a herd of about 30 cows. The land and climate in the Tamar Valley area was very suitable in places for growing vegetables. Here in North Devon, the vast majority of land is not very conducive for arable farming. Instead, we have Exmoor, which is very suitable for sheep farming, and most of our land is more suitable for pasture than anything else, although we can grow corn in many fields. As a council, I welcome the fact that we have planted several thousand trees, but I don't think it's appropriate to cover the whole of North Devon in trees. To move entirely to growing plants and trees would be disastrous for the ecology of the area and bankrupt our farmers, destroy our rural communities, and have a devastating effect on the countryside. Unfortunately, successive governments have undervalued our farmers and have increasingly relied on foreign imports to feed our nation. In my opinion, that's a very dangerous thing to do. And if we really want to make an impact on the climate crisis, then we need to produce and buy more of our own food locally, instead of talking up huge transport miles as goods come from South America, Australia and beyond. As a council, we need to take more of a lead to encourage local production and ensure that our agricultural community flourishes. I would value us producing a motion very much related to that, to decrease the effect on the climate of all the thousands of miles that food is transported to our supermarkets and local shops. Besides all that, I passionately believe that as a council, we would be overstepping the mark to take away the general public's choice of what food they would like to eat. Yes, some have made the choice to be vegan, but personally, I still eat meat and dairy products. And I believe that this motion is inappropriate for our area. There may be some useful points in it, but as it stands, it's a slap in the face of our farmers, and I urge members to vote against it. But at the same time, I think that we should do everything we can to promote local food and look at other ways to help increase biodiversity and sustainability. If this motion is passed, it would deprive people of their personal choice and a nail in the coffin of our farmers. So please vote against it. Thank you, Member.
Councillor Morgan, you asked.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I'm the member that's had to declare the non-registrable interest because I'm actually the full-time farmer in this council. Such, I will speak. I'm going to leave the room as requested and not take part in the vote. Try and be brief. I've got some notes, which is unusual for me because I could speak on this subject for hours. So, start. I'm really disappointed that I have to voice my complete opposition to this motion as it stands. I think it's inappropriate and ill-conceived. And on the following basis, actually, it completely fails to recognise the fundamental complexities of agricultural diversity and its contribution to the economy of North Devon. I don't think you can blame the farmers for climate change. I think we have to have a complete policy and be working together. And I think taking things independently is entirely incorrect. It undermines entirely the proactive work of the Policy Development Committee here, the meeting recently. It also removes the democratic freedom of choice that people should have and must have. It challenges item 21, the cluster 3 part within the economic strategy paper, which follows this meeting. It is really important, that document. That talks about the economic future, North Devon. It seems at odds with the Green Party policy, although I know Councillor Knight has informed us that it is not on that basis. And frustratingly for me, it confuses separate issues: sustainability and plant-based approach. They are two separate issues and should not be confused within the same paper. And it is to the detriment of each, because I feel there are some valid, very valid points at the beginning of the motion. Right, I support the need to focus on development of a more sustainable agricultural systems. As farmers, we all do. It's embraced by farmers and public alike, supported by government policy. We embrace the environmental land management policies at the moment, catchment sensitive farming, etc. We actually want to deliver safe, affordable, quality food locally. Reduce the carbon footprint, ideally by food miles, as mentioned by Councillor Warden. In reality, net zero is an ambition not of 2050, as suggested by Councillor Knight, but of 2040 by the NFU and those farmers that are its members, somewhat earlier. We deliver cleaner and cleaner water, increase biodiversity and environmental benefits, we protect landscape, and fundamentally, as well to the wider economy, support tourism and local business. We have the biggest individual rural-based trading business in the country based in this area, in Mill Valley Farmers. Let's ensure that we don't forget that. To suggest that this must be delivered by limiting public choice to plant-based foods is democratically wrong and factually, I'm afraid, incorrect. The preamble to the motion, highlighting the value of a balanced diet, is somewhat at odds with its ambition at the end. Also, whenever statistics are used for sport, I'm reminded of a quote by Mark Twain: "There are lies, damn lies, and statistics." So, a few examples of my thoughts on that. A comment: plant-based is booming. Kantar report January 2024 showed declines in sales of plant-based foods and increased price in comparison with traditionally produced ones. The carbon capture. A farmer at Braunton has his grazing margins tested, raised by livestock, at just under 20% carbon. He grows fruit and he grows veg on some of the rest, but that's less than 4% carbon. Is that really what we want? Is that leading to net zero? I could go on. I could go on within those. You know, I read the soya-based Sustainable Food Trust report recently. Only 37% of the soya coming into this country goes to livestock. The rest is for us. And just one at the end, really. I'm not entirely sure what plant-based ice creams will taste like or how it will go down with our tourists that arrive here. We'll look forward to seeing that one. But there's an inability to convert our grass-based systems here. North Devon grows predominantly grass, not entirely. I think 10%-ish is around arable crops. And we're not going to convert that to plant-based production without significant carbon release by ploughing what we've got, by problems with water quality for increased runoff and soil, from increased use of chemicals to grow those plant-based crops, and from considerable biodiversity impacts. I think looking at ideological issues in isolation risks significant unforeseen consequences. We cannot export our environmental responsibilities and offshore production of meat. People will still buy it, whether we like it or not. It will just make it less available and more expensive to those people in areas of the world that are least placed above. So we need to offer a balanced and healthy diet to all, and a choice. Nearly there. I'm nearly there. Farmers are facing and embracing major changes in policy. We're delivering on environmental land management, moving to net zero, and proactively working with organisations such as the North Devon Biosphere, the Environment Agency, Natural England, North Devon Plus, to deliver those environmental requirements that are expected. Within, of course, the geographical climatic limitations of North Devon, and it rains quite a bit here. But we also have great food here of superb qualities. So I would like you to ask you to vote down this motion as it stands, and to support the Policy Development Committee and the approach they've taken, support our economic strategy paper at item 21, support freedom of choice, support our local rural economy, our North Devon farmers and the multiple benefits they bring. At least if nothing else, buy more local, at least British if at all possible, seasonable where you can, and make informed choices. Realistically, our almond milk takes 3 times as much water to produce as a litre of dairy milk. Vote down this motion and support North Devon farmers, please.
Councillor Collins, please.
Can you hear me all? Thank you. Basically, I'd like to thank the 2 previous speakers because they've more or less covered everything I was going to cover anyway, very eloquently and more than I can. I'm speaking today as ward member for North Malton, which is a very rural area, and also on behalf of the many North Devon farmers concerned, and I may say they're very angry at this motion. Firstly, just to those who may be concerned that I'm speaking after reading my register of interest, as my husband and I have downsized our farming interest to just a handful of sheep showing, which do not produce any excess income, I've been advised by our legal department that I have a non-registrable interest, and anybody wants to see a copy of that, they can. My rural ward is like so many in North Devon, where the principal business and employment is in livestock farming, followed by tourism. I understand that these 2 industries are the biggest across the whole of North Devon. The farming business does not just involve farmers in employment and production, but so many also in allied businesses. We have the largest, as has been mentioned before, agriculture supplier in the UK here that employ over 2,000 people. We've got other feed and equipment suppliers, vets, agricultural engineers, shed builders, agronomists, land agents, etc., etc. The list just goes on and on. Without these businesses which rely on agriculture, our rural economy would die. In addition, the North Devon tourist economy relies on the landscape provided by livestock farming to attract farmers down here. We all work together. To go into the negative perception of livestock farming, we can all quote, as been mentioned before, reams of statistics to prove whatever we want, which is being done by the proposer of this motion. But I won't be doing this on the benefits of livestock farming to the environment, as I'll be here all night. However, it is becoming increasingly noticed that grass-fed meat and milk are one of the most sustainable ways of food production. And food production is what farmers are in business for. For a start, permanent grass locks in carbon, whereas arable cultivation releases it. Arable production requires thousands of litres of diesel. There are currently no viable electric tractors to cultivate and to harvest, inorganic fertiliser and pesticides, and no end of water to irrigate in the drier regions. Whereas here in North Devon, the topography, soil type, and in particular high rainfall does not lend itself to horticultural production. And this is important to note in what the proposer seems to have missed entirely. But we can grow copious amounts of lush green grass. This is not only a tourist attraction, but more importantly, sheep and cattle can digest it. And they produce meat and milk which we can digest. A very simple process which mankind has followed for centuries. I have no problem with anyone wanting to live on a vegan or vegetarian diet, as long as they're happy to live on produce like avocados and almond milk from the other side of the world, and fruit and veg imported from countries grown under plastic in places like Spain and California, where water supplies are under serious threat due to its use for irrigation. What I and others object to is those diets being imposed on us and impacting on our freedom to choose our own homegrown and fresh produce. We should be promoting grow local and buy local to support our local farmers. Apart from the fact that the proposals in the motion are to the very large extent undeliverable by North Devon Council, we should as councillors support the work already instigated by our council to support the local farming economy. As has been said before, our recent Policy Development Committee event highlighting the importance of North Devon agriculture to the whole North Devon economy was very well received by the roomful of farmers and allied workers who attended. That should be the way forward, and I suggest you read, as Robin has said, cluster 3 on page 194 on today's agenda, which highlights the way forward proposed to our farming industry here. Livestock farming is the bedrock of North Devon, and we need our freedom of choice to eat what we want to eat. And therefore, on behalf not only of the farmers in my ward, but all the farmers in North Devon, please, councillors, do not support this motion and vote against it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Councillor Lovell. If we can keep it fair, we've got a long agenda.
Okay. What I want to mention is, and I respect your views, Councillor Knight, but I read your motion and the last bit where you said you wanted to promote this in schools. So I did my research and I spoke to medical professionals who my work with. They come up with some interesting statistics as well. Vitamin B12, which causes anemia, occurs naturally in animal products, but it's not in plants. Rickets is caused by a lack of vitamin D. You don't want rickets back in this country. And vitamin D is found in the sun. We don't get the sun in England, we get it from milk. Calcium. Without calcium in your diet, it can cause brittle bone disease, and you know what industry are working, so we don't want that. Causes brittle bone disease, causes arthritis. The medical professionals are extremely concerned about promoting a plant-based diet to schools because this diet is insufficient for a large population, so nutrients are not available without going to expensive shops in town that sell multivitamins, which we do not want to do because we don't know what's in them. They're not registered. We would like to see a diet based on nutrition and balance of vegetables, meat, animal products, but make it sustainable and healthy for everybody. Thank you.
Councillor Craven, somebody like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's been passionate arguments both sides. I think on balance, the people involved in the industry are giving me a better indication of the way I'm swaying. However, there's talk about just simply voting this down. Yeah, I suppose it'll come back again in a different form. I think I'd rather, if we went along with something along the lines of an amendment, which I'm happy to propose, if someone will second it, but it's as simple as North Devon Council continues to support local farmers and producers and promotes locally grown food of all kinds and continues to work with farmers through existing community channels.
We have an amendment proposed by Councillor Cragg and seconded by Councillor Maskell. Before I take the vote on that, I believe Councillor Bush wants to.
Yes, to start with, I would like to ask for this to be a recorded vote. I think it's important. I think Councillor Knight would also support that. I'm slightly worried that this is trampling over the work of the policy committee, which is trying to support agriculture, the rural economy, including promoting local sustainable produce. I also have questions over the evidence which is referenced, because if you did a quick meta-analysis search on the internet, you find things like plant-based meats, human health and climate change, which in their conclusion, they say, while plant-based diets are being promoted for human and environmental health reasons, this may put large proportions of the population at greater risk for nutrient deficiencies and accompanying health issues. This may be especially the case for vulnerable populations such as children, elderly, and nursing mothers who are at increased risk of nutritional deficiencies. And we know that we have a large level of deprivation within certain areas of this ward. He also mentions greenhouse gases, but he doesn't draw a box around flying food in from all around the world or the damage which is done to the rainforests. I think it would be much better if he had a local aspect to this. And who am I? I live in a town. but I live in a hinterland parish which is supported by agriculture. A town that also gets 100% of its gas from biogas and 60% of its electricity from renewable sources. So I do feel that the greenhouse gases emission is a situation, but I don't think it's the situation which is going to help. This is not a situation which is going to be helped. I think that this is just an authoritarian move, removing freedoms and choice at the expense of farming and the local economy. I'll rest here saying that we do need to take what he says seriously, but a balanced diet can't be had without fortifying plant-based meats. We are not at the point where we can move to this, and we need to find actionable solutions to the global situation on greenhouse gases. This is not it. This I shall be voting against.
Okay, we've had a proposal from the seconder for the amendment. But we also need to take a vote on whether people are happy to have a recorded vote. So, do we have a seconder for a recorded vote?
Yeah.
Councillor Jones, thank you.
Chair, sorry, just point of order. Well, not one. I wanted to speak with Paul's amendment, about Paul's amendment very, very quickly. I would encourage members not to support the amendment for the main reason that I believe, and as several speakers have said, this council is already doing tremendous work in the policy committee towards this end, exactly what Paul's proposing. So I think, it's simply the case, in my opinion, voted down this motion and carrying on the work of the policy committee. Thank you.
Councillor Wharton, Vice Chair.
I've been beaten to it by Councillor Biederman. That's exactly what I wanted to say, because yes, we do want to support our farmers in every way we possibly can. But I think the important thing is that we actually come back with a comprehensive motion rather than just a very small one that you've mentioned, with actually some actions and ideas. And I think the policy committee is working on that at this moment. And it would be much better if we could do that.
Councillor Crabbe, you wanted to come back on that?
I'd just like to explain, if you look at the motion, the particular keyword there is all. So what my amendment is designed to do is to make sure that this council promotes the use of all kinds of food. So there's no doubt in what the policy, and it actually says in here to grow us through existing committee channels. I'm not suggesting anything controversial. I'm just suggesting that that work continues for all types of food.
Okay, can we have a vote on whether we would like to have a recorded vote, please? Those in favour? That is carried, so we'll be having a recorded vote on Councillor Crabbe's amendment, seconded by Councillor Mask.
Thank you, Chair. So we're voting on the amendment first, as the Chair just said, from Councillor Crabbe. So I'll call each member's name. If you can indicate whether you voted for, against, or abstained, please. So starting with Councillor Bell.
Against.
Councillor Biederman.
Against.
Councillor Bishop.
Against.
Councillor Bullard.
Against.
Councillor Bushell.
Against.
Councillor Can.
Against.
Councillor Clayton.
Against.
Councillor Crabbe.
For.
Councillor Davies. Councillor Davies.
Against.
Councillor Denton.
Against.
Councillor Haywood Booth.
For.
Councillor James.
Against.
Councillor Youssef.
Against.
Councillor David Knight.
Against.
Councillor Ricky Knight.
For.
Councillor Lane.
Against.
Councillor Leatherby.
Against.
Councillor Lovering. Against. Councillor Maddox.
Against.
Councillor Maskell. Councillor Milton. Councillor Norman.
Against.
Councillor Orange. Against. Councillor Petrinos.
Against.
Councillor Kraus.
Against.
Councillor Quinn.
Against.
Councillor Renshaw. Against. Councillor Spear. Against. Councillor Stevenson. Against. Councillor Tops.
Against.
Councillor Walker. Against. Councillor Whitehead.
Against.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Against.
Councillor Williams. Against. Councillor Wilson. Against. Councillor Warden.
Against.
Councillor York.
Against.
So the votes there, Chair, is 32 against and 4 for. So that, therefore, that amendment is lost. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spear, would you like to say something before we move to the substantive motion? Thank you. It's very, thank you.
Point of order.
Sorry, Councillor, I can't start the debate again. I do apologise. I wasn't here. It's a comment about my committee. That's all right. Okay. Yeah.
We hear that now?
Is it another amendment, Councillor's name? No, it's not an amendment. Okay, sorry about that. No, I can't. No.
Probably on something else.
Yeah. Okay, we're now going to take the vote on the substantive motion as laid out by Councillor Ricky Knight. Yeah, this is still a recorded vote, so therefore we're making the minutes.
The Chair, starting Councillor Bell.
Against.
Councillor Beaterman.
Against.
Councillor Bishop.
Yeah.
Councillor Bullard.
Against.
Councillor Bushell.
Against.
Councillor Cann.
Against.
Councillor Clayton.
Against.
Councillor Crabb.
Against.
Councillor Davies.
Against.
Councillor Denton.
Against.
Councillor Hayward Boo.
Oh.
Councillor Jones.
Against.
Councillor Youssef.
Against.
Councillor David Knight.
Against.
Councillor Ricky Knight.
Well.
Councillor Lane.
Against.
Councillor Leatherby.
Against.
Councillor Lovering.
Against.
Councillor Maddox.
Against.
Councillor Maskell.
Against.
Councillor Milton. Here.
Against.
Councillor Norman.
Councillor
Councillor Orange. Against. Councillor Petrinos.
Against.
Councillor Prowse.
Against.
Councillor Quinn.
Against.
Councillor Renshaw.
Against.
Councillor Spear.
Against.
Councillor Stevenson.
Against.
Councillor Tops.
Against.
Councillor Walker.
Against.
Councillor Whitehead.
Against.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Councillor Warden.
Against.
Councillor York.
Yeah, the motion is lost, and I thank all members of the public who have come in to hear the motion, and thank you very much for the way you have behaved. This has been fantastic, and thank you for seeing that so much. Okay. Yeah, we'll have a 2-minute recess to pass the people who would like to leave because they. Seat, please. Continue with item 7, please. Declaration of interest.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the last item 6, Councillor Maddox declared a non-registrable interest in terms of transparency reasons, and Councillor Lane also declared a non-registrable interest for transparency reasons.
Item 8, Chair finds that any questions to council members submitted under Part 4, Council approved the rule, paragraph 10 of the Constitution. I have none. Item 9, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B. There is no Part B. So we move on to Part A. Item 10, appointment of the leader of the council to 24-25. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. I don't need to make it early. I'm going to be short and sweet anyway, because we've got a long agenda. It's my great pleasure to propose our current deputy leader,
Councillor David Kemp.
Do I have a second, please, councillor? Councillor York, thank you.
Yeah, I'd also like to second that proposal. Councillor Clayton is a very experienced councillor, not just in this council in North Devon, but also up in Rochdale. He has great tenacity. He asks the right questions, gets to the heart of the matter. I think he'd be an excellent leader.
Do we have any other nominations? Councillor Maskell.
Thank you. I'd like to propose Councillor Crabb. I think Councillor Crabb is a local person who has given many years to his community, and I think he would do a good job.
Do we have a second to councillor Crabb? Councillor Bushell?
I think we need a leader who has been here, seen all the progressions of this council, and is a steady base for us to learn from. So I put forward Councillor Malcolm Rouse.
Sorry, Malcolm.
Do we have a second?
Chairman.
Yeah.
Can I just say thank you very much for that? Actually, the numbers are right tonight. It would have worked, wouldn't it? But I'm not prepared to stand. I spent the last 5 years, I think, helping the administration of this authority, because I think the North Devon Council is more important than party politics. I've had my back stabbed a few times over the years, but I'm still strong enough to say I will still support the administration. So thank you, Matt. I did it for 16 years, and it's a long time ago, and my wife told me, you don't need to think about it.
Okay, so we come to the vote. All in favour of councillor Clayton, please, show your hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, Chair.
All those in favour of councillor Crabb?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Chair.
And any abstentions?
3, Chair.
Thank you. And councillor David Clayton is duly elected leader of North Devon Council. Councillor Clayton, would you like to say anything?
Well, yes, thank you. Can you hear me? It's an honour and a privilege, and I thank you all for that. I'm going to say a few words about Councillor Ian Room when we do the report for the draft for the leader. But for now, talking to Councillor Beadle the other day, and he said, absolutely fine, but there are a few members of the council who don't know much about you. So, because of Councillor Beadle, I'm going to drag it out a little bit longer. I think it won't be that long. I was born in a place called Shaw in Oldham. I'm not a Devonian, I admit that, not by nature. I'm a Devonian by choice. I was born in Shaw, Oldham, went to Durham University. I did an honours degree in history and Russian studies. I then started teaching Zachary Comprehensive in Liverpool, and I've told several people since, if you can handle a group of adolescents Zachary Comprehensive in Liverpool, you can handle most things that come along with the council. I carried on teaching in West Bromwich, in Sandwell. I ended up teaching at my local school in Oldham, Crompton House School, Church of England Secondary School, where I was head of history and politics for about 35 years. I'm married to Jane, my wife, and 3 grown children, Catherine, Sean and Mark. Catherine Newton, Abbott, South Devon, Sean and Mark are still up north in Leeds and Rochdale. Politically, I was involved in the Equality Party in the 1970s. I went to hear David Steele speak when I was at university. Found out a Liberal by listening to what he said. I was a councillor, as Councillor York has said, for 12 years on Rochdale Council. So I haven't got full experience, but I've got plenty of experience in that particular area. I was chair of environment, chair of social services, chair of education, and more importantly, chair of all review and scrutiny, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So that's a brief potted history. I'm open to any questions if anybody wants to ask me any questions, but I am very thankful. I will try my best, and hopefully I will deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clayton. Item 11, to appoint the deputy leader of the council for 24-25. Do we have any nominations, please?
Matthew is not here tonight, away on holiday. I'd like to nominate Councillor Peter Lever. He's actually done a fantastic job as agent for Ian Room in the parliamentary election. And he's a well-earned break just at the moment. I don't begrudge him that at all. But I think he would be an excellent deputy to David. And so I'd like to propose him, please. I won't say any more because we've got not meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, Councillor David Knight?
Thank you. I'd like to second that. David Warden has said some excellent words. I think Pete Lever has got some fantastic experience on the town council and a multitude of committees, etc. So therefore, second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other nominations? No, in that case, Councillor Bullard.
I know he might like saying this, but Councillor Price.
Councillor Price, would you like to respond, please?
I say all that again. Jim might second that. Do it. Do it.
No, Chair, I'm afraid not. I love doing my portfolio. I'm really proud of my team. I think I do a supportive role anyway. So, no, again, my wife would be almost as disappointed if she would have been right, except with the other one. But keep asking that.
Okay, do we have any other nominations before we move to the vote? If we could proceed to the vote, please. All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? Thank you. That's Councillor Peter Lever, who has been duly elected as deputy leader. Thank you very much. Okay, we now move on to item 12, which is the appointment of chair and vice chair for the Strategy and Resources Committee. So, yeah, so can we have a vote in accordance with the constitution that Councillor Clayton and Lever are chair and vice chair of Strategy and Resources? Please. And seconder, all those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Okay. Item 13, report from the leader of the council. Councillor Clayton, do you have the report here?
I do, it's a bit last minute.
Councillor Room was going to do a report, but obviously been extremely busy since 2 weeks ago. So I said I would draft something out. I think one of the most significant events over the last few weeks has been a general election.
And I would like to, and I'm sure all council will join me in saying a big thank you to Debbie Chandler and the elections team, because it was a superb effort. It was most efficient, it was well organised, the camp went on for some time. I admit that the legislature vote, we got the right result in the end. And now Councillor Room as the elected MP, and I'm standing here. As far as the election is concerned, it was very good. But I have to say, I think we should all be calling out what happened in one or two instances, because there were certain signs that were defaced, and it was pretty horrible to see. And if I had been that candidate, I would not have liked it. And I think as we live in a democracy, all candidates, all people participate in the democracy that we have so much love for when we compare it to places like Russia and Ukraine at the moment. You know, we have to value this, and if we're going to value it, we all have to do it properly. And that wasn't proper. And if you look at social media during the general election campaign, there were some pretty awful things going on there. Call out the policies of people, but don't call out the people themselves, because if anything, it will just wither democracy, because people will not want to come forward when they see the abuse they get. I remember Councillor Piedmont suffered quite a lot of abuse as well locally, and it was uncalled for, whether you agreed with what was going on with the roads and things. The abuse was just uncalled for. But we've got to all of us call that out for what it is, and it's wrong. Simple as that. Again, I'm sure all councillors will join in with me in wishing Ian Room, as our new MP, the very best in Parliament. We've now got an MP who's been leader of the council, who knows the issues involved in North Devon, who knows the problems that we have financially and economically, and it's great to have somebody who's going to be shouting for us there. So I do wish Ian all the best. And I'm sure again we would all like to join in and say a big thank you to Ian for all the work that he did as leader of the council for the last year or so. So thank you, Ian, for that. I was going to go on, but I'll leave it at that for this particular one, because it has been a bit of a rush job. Unless anybody has any questions, ask any questions.
Does anybody have any questions of the leader? No. Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. Item 14, questions by members. We have none. Item 15, performance and financial management quarter 4, 2023-24. Report by the Director of Resources and Deputy Chief Executive. Are there any questions on the report? No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, can I move its adoption as it's been to policy committee and to strategy and resources? I think all members are ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Item A, report from policy and development committee.
Chair, I move to call the policy and development committee on the 2nd of July 2024.
Item B is report of meeting to strategy and resources committee, Councillor Clayton.
I'll follow the move, Madam Chair, please.
Yes. Can move for that report, please. Yeah. And second, Councillor Masley. All those in favour? And we do the same for item 16, the annual treasury management report. Any questions? No, that's great. Item A, report of policy development committee. Yeah,
I move the report of the Policy Development Committee held on the 2nd of July 2024. Okay.
And item B, strategy and resources, Councillor Clayton, please.
Yeah, I'll move that. This is the July 2nd.
Yeah, for my birthday, yes. I'll probably move it, but also
something that perhaps councillors don't know yet. I think Councillor Miles is going to send us something out. We're talking about the issue of car parks in general and specifically, as Pascal mentioned, Croyd. And I suggested that perhaps we have some kind of working group on car parks to look at the whole holistic approach to it, how much is charged in different car parks, what's going to happen in the next 12 months. So I hope that people will be able to get invited to that and we'll get the order because I think it's going to be quite a contentious issue before next May.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So we have seconded for those, please. Councillor Master. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 17 is the productivity plan 2024-25, and I would like to pass over to Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Item 17 is the productivity plan 24-25. When the local government finance settlement was published at the tail end of last year, it included a government requirement for councils to publish a productivity plan. Further details came out in the spring, setting out the context for the productivity plan and the themes that should be included. And a productivity plan should be submitted to government by the 19th of July, which is the tail end of this week, having seen oversight by members. That's the reasons on your agenda for this evening. The four main areas the government set out to cover within the plan were transformation of services to make better use of resources, opportunities to take advantages of advances in technology and make better use of data to inform decision making and service design, ways to reduce wasteful spending within all councils, and identifying any barriers that currently impact efficiency that the government could help to reduce or remove. So there was no set criteria in terms of a template for a productivity plan, but they were the four themes the government wanted us to include. The productivity plans will be considered by a new productivity review panel made up of sector experts, including the Office for Local Government and the Local Government Association. In 2020 and 2021, this council had a corporate peer challenge, and in January 2022, the council received the reports from the corporate peer challenge, which is an external scrutiny looking at the way the council is run and recommendations moving forwards. These reports were very positively received by council and accurately reflected the work and approach the council was carrying out. It praised the council's financial planning and also the approach of staff, including the strong public service ethos and the pride in working for the council that existed within North Devon. The report also highlighted how staff valued the collaborative approach being adopted by the council and developing the council's behaviour framework, and noted that many of the key recommendations from the first report had actually been addressed by the time the 2021 report came to members. So the themes that we've set out in the productivity plan in front of you have endorsed that consistent good value for money assessments that have been set out by the external auditors in the latest report in January 2024. And hopefully that sets the context for what we're submitting and plan to submit to government. We feel those assessments by sector experts demonstrate that this council is already delivering against the requirements set out by the Secretary of State, and that's evidenced in the productivity plan that's set out in Appendix A, starting on page 113. Under the first theme as to how we transform the way we design our services to make better use of our resources, members are fully aware of the financial constraints the council has faced over the years. Back in 2010, we had a net budget of 15 million, and we've still got a net budget of around 15 million. However, the real cost of that is around £8 million due to the cost of inflation. So the council has had to adapt, it's implemented changes in the way it runs its services, and has had to redesign how they're delivered to be innovative and also make use of less resources in terms of staff and manpower. We've had to embrace changes in technology whilst managing customer demands, and also supported a period of time when we had to adapt to the pandemic and how we deliver those services over the challenging couple of financial years. During the pandemic, the council also took on more responsibility from government in delivering some of the community response and also supporting local businesses and the delivery of business grants up to the tune of £100 million. Therefore shows the council can be adaptable and flexible in the way it responds to those challenges and step up when the council are required to by central government. Productivity plan references our medium-term financial strategy that you've approved in February 2024 as part of the budget, and also touches on the external auditor assessments that come forward as part of the reports that come through the governance committee. One area in that report that the external auditors produced was that the council is not significantly reliant on commercial income, unlike other councils that have taken on some significant commercial investments. And obviously that's now proving quite challenging in the current financial standing. North Devon Council doesn't rely significantly on the income from commercial property. However, it did took the brave decision to acquire Green Lane Shopping Centre back in June 2021. And as reported in the statement of accounts over the last couple of years, that's proved to be a very positive return for the council financially, but also from a regeneration perspective in terms of the wider work that's going on in the town centre. Having control of the centre has enabled the team to fill a number of the vacant units in the centre, and working both with national and local interested parties to ensure we've got a balance in the offer the town centre is providing. Council are also embarking on a town centre hub, and that's set out within the productivity plan as well within the shopping centre, to demonstrate a joined up approach working with other public sector partners in how we deliver council services into the future. The aim of the hub is to enhance community engagement and bringing together diverse perspectives to improve the impact on policies and projects on people. Our vulnerable people and community safety team have creatively bid for resources and have set a multi-skilled team approach, bringing a wide range of partner agencies set out at the Freedom Centre in Barnstaple to engage and support our rough sleeper community and also our gypsy and travellers, providing welfare checks and support. We have 8 rough sleeper pods along with 16 temporary accommodation bed places, which provided a place of safety for rough sleepers who need that additional support. This demonstrates how the council has used its resources creatively and also to meet the demands of an increased demand on council services. Productivity plan also aligns and sets out our corporate plan priorities, and they're set out on page 116, and they're delivered through our programmes. One of the recommendations from the Corporate Peer Challenge was around how the council manages its projects, and in 2021 the Chief Executive carried out a restructure, resulted in the creation of a Programme Management Office. The Programme Management team coordinate and manage all the projects within the above mentioned programmes that help you deliver your corporate priorities set out in the corporate plan. And this was a real positive change to the way we manage our project resources and ensures a collaborative approach amongst service areas that was previously missing. The challenge of reduced resources, more apparent, this is crucial now moving forward to ensure we maximise those resources we have within the council in delivering our programme. The second area in the productivity plan talks about how we plan to take advantage of technology and make better use of data to improve decision making, service design and use of resources. One of the council's programmes is around customer focus and digital by design. The objectives in that programme are set out on the top of page 117. We've also refreshed the council's website and also embedded self-service modules where customers can actually access customer services outside of normal working hours. An example of that is the rollout of the recent Revenues and Benefits self-service portal, where we've seen an uptake of 1,500 customers who can access their accounts online and interact with council services. And for next April, electronic billing of all annual council tax bills will take place, which will be transformational for our service and our customers. We of course need to also make sure that those services are still accessible and available to meet the needs of all of our customers who may not want to embrace that technology, and it's important that we strike a balance between technological changes and also making sure we can serve our customers effectively. By shifting customers that want to self-serve onto those digital platforms, that enables those resources to actually focus then on those customers who may require additional assistance. Our member services team are also in the process of procuring community engagement software to further enhance the interaction we have with our customers. And that will be widened to work closely with the voluntary sectors to ensure we're working more collaboratively. The third area within the productivity plan is around how to reduce wasteful spend within our organisation and systems. And in order to address the challenges set out in the corporate plan, one of those key priorities was around financial security and also how that links with our medium-term financial plan. The corporate plan is also then mentioned within that section, and again with the 5 corporate priorities set out on page 118. One of the big areas of spend we've seen over the last couple of years is the increase in spend on temporary accommodation and homelessness. Since 2019, we've seen a doubling in spend on temporary accommodation. In 2021-22, we had 310 tenancies, of which only around 10% of those were actually in our own housing stock. Members took the brave decision to start acquiring our own properties and invest capital to actually start buying houses to help with the demand on our temporary accommodation. I'm pleased to report that's now risen to 31% of those tenancies are now actually in our own stock, which is an improved position not only for the well-being of our clients, but also financially in terms of it's reducing the reliance on the more expensive bed and breakfast accommodation. Workforce planning is also an area of challenge in the council, and we've seen shortages in terms of recruitment, in terms of some key posts within the council. And the governance committee took a look at that when they were looking at the challenge of how much the council was spending on agency staff. That was in 2023, and the challenge that we experienced historically was that where North Devon was an easy sell, try and recruit people into posts, following the pandemic with hybrid working, it actually became apparent that people could live in North Devon, but actually have the more better paid jobs, obviously, up country. So that was a challenge for us, and something that we obviously need to address moving forwards. We've tried to be clever with the way that we recruit for posts, and a recent recruitment for the National Graduate Programme. We did a video on the council on the benefits of working for North Devon Council, and also the attractiveness of coming to work in North Devon and the culture that's improved at the council over the last number of years. We're looking to try and be clever in the way that we can cover those posts and only have a reliance on agency staff as a last resort. The level of agency spend equated to around 5% of the council's payroll budget, which is on the lower end of national spend on agency staff. Nationally, the average was around 6%. Some councils are spending nearly half their budget on agency staff out of their payroll. Some were as high as 42%. I'm pleased to report North Devon Council was on the lower end of that spectrum. Excuse me. Section 4, the final section of the productivity plan, talks about the barriers preventing progress and areas where government can help to reduce or remove some of those barriers. As alluded to in the earlier conversations, one of the biggest barriers is around single financial settlements. The settlement we get for our budget comes out in December, and for the last few years we've only had 1 year settlements, which doesn't help the council to enable us to plan its resources moving into the future financial years. So it's important that moving forwards that we have some certainty around the level of funding coming to councils, and we've highlighted that in the productivity plan to make government realise the importance of councils having certainty around their core funding. We've also been hampered by the tendency of Whitehall to design and decide policy that affects councils without engaging the sectors fully and as early as it could. And that's resulted in initiatives and funds coming forwards that are more complicated than necessary, and in some cases more costly to implement. So we strongly urge the government to take note of that in terms of the funding settlements. Locally, progress on some projects has been hampered by criteria used to decide on where levelling up funding has previously been directed. The district found itself in the lowest priority area, even though it has high levels of deprivation. As a consequence, no levelling up funding has been allocated to the bids that were submitted. In addition to that, the levelling up funding process doesn't take into account geography, and instead should be considered for a place-based approach moving forwards. We've made that clear in the productivity plan. So in conclusion, North Devon Council has demonstrated through the austerity measures how it's been adaptable and how it's delivered to manage services through a challenging period. And the productivity plan in front of you members has hopefully covered all of the things the council has done over the last few years and a lot of the initiatives moving forwards as to how we address those challenges with the reduced financial resources moving forwards. And hopefully shows that North Devon Council has shown it's not one that just sits still, delivers the minimum, but actually strives to improve for the benefit of our community. So members, the productivity plan is in front of you for endorsement this evening. If there's anything else you feel should be included, then we have time to include that prior to submission by the 19th of July. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? I have proposed to
I just wanted to make a comment that John has outlined some of the fantastic things that our council has been doing over the last few years. And I'd like to say thank you to what you've done, as well as the political sort of input that's been put into it as well. And I'd love to move this as well, because I think it's the way forward, and it's really quite encouraging. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Good. I just wanted to refer to the very last paragraph with regards to Ilfracombe, and of course you mentioned, and I think this is an important point perhaps to expand on slightly. Mr. Miles and I were in a meeting with Lord Best today discussing the Devon housing report, and the fact that where it says Ilfracombe is the deprived area, it's important to remember that many of the local authorities in Devon and as well as North Devon, we are in the very most, the lowest percentile for poorly developed and under and houses that are in very low quality. So I think that's something that we should really, when we're talking about our need for additional funding and moving forward, I think that's something we really should press, and that's something that we could probably let you have the information about. Yeah. Take that on board, Chair. The cabinet members are happy to include that amendment.
Can I have a seconder for to accept this report? Councillor Norman. And can I have a show of hands, please? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, item 18 is a report on the museum forward plan by Alison Nelson.
Hello, councillors. This is more detailed than perhaps we normally get at council. It's necessary for you to adopt the museum forward plan because as an accredited museum, we have to have a forward plan which has been adopted by the governing body of the museum. And you are the governing body of the Museum of Barnstaple and North Devon. So you've had the report as an appendix. Sorry, you've had the plan as an appendix to the report. I'm not going to go through it in enormous detail, but I'll just run through what we've tried to talk about in the report. So the forward plan presented to you has been structured according to Arts Council England guidance. It's quite a rigid format, and it's already been approved by the advisory board, which was set up for the museum when we became a national portfolio organisation, of which more later, I think. The last forward plan ran from 2016. It was originally due to run for 5 years, but it was extended for 2 years because of the difficulties we had with COVID and with staff changes and one thing and another. So it's only now, I'm afraid, that we've got around to doing a new one. Period since the last forward plan has been really productive, and then there's a section about what we've achieved in that last period, and that includes finishing the Long Bridge Wing extension project, which opened in 2019. Seems like only yesterday. We launched a new website and trebled social media engagement. We set up a new friends group with an active programme of talks and events, and we've staged some major exhibitions. The Long Bridge Wing have made it possible for us to borrow items from national museums. We've had loans from the DNA and some regional museums, and we had a big exhibition about the Partridge family and also the Barnstaple map and the Bodleian last year, which was really successful. We've also, as I just said, secured national portfolio status for the museum. That gives us £95,000 a year from government funding to support 2 additional staff and additional programming within the museum, so we don't have to keep applying for additional project funds. That's been a really significant change. We've increased income from our shop and tea room by 75% since the last forward plan, and we've restored our volunteer hours to the pre-pandemic levels, which is about 9,000 hours a year, so about 4.5 FTE in addition to the museum staff. And our visitor numbers are back up to pre-pandemic levels now. So the new plan has been developed partly in line with the culture strategy, which was adopted in 2022, and the Barnstaple Culture Plan in 2023. And also taking into account the undertakings that we made to Arts Council and the government when we achieved our national portfolio status. So that includes things like environmental responsibility and community engagement, as well as what we want to do as a museum. So the new plan sets out the vision for the museum, which is to be the focus for all our community to learn about and celebrate their natural and human heritage, and to be a centre of North Devon's cultural tourism offer. We see the museum as a centre for curiosity, a place for learning, and a house of stories. I look forward to showing our new leader around the museum with a history background. Under that, we've set out key aims. So firstly, to contribute to an increase in cultural engagement in Barnstaple and Northern Devon. That's through our own programming, but also the work we as staff are doing as part of the Cultural Development Fund project. The museum building will be fit for purpose and more economically and environmentally sustainable. It was a big step forward to get the new extension, but the older parts of the building are still not really up to scratch in terms of ventilation, especially. So there's work to be done on that. Our exhibitions and displays will celebrate our past and present and inspire ambition and creativity. For example, this Friday we have a Turner coming to Barnstaple. It's Turner's Watercolour of Barnstaple Bridge at sunset, and it's set in the context of Turner and his family in North Devon. If you don't know now, you will by the end of the exhibition. Turner's father was born in South Molton, and the family members who disputed his will were mostly from from Devon and North Devon. So it's a really special story. Come and see it. We have volunteer slots available, as there does have to be somebody sitting by it all the time. Just let me know if you'd like to volunteer. But the point of that is, it's all of our exhibitions where we're borrowing in things. What we're trying to say to people is, look at this. This was made by somebody from North Devon. You can be from North Devon and do really amazing and inspirational things. And Turner, one generation down, is one of those. So that's the kind of message that we want to get across to people. Our collections will be well cared for, visible and used for learning. And we will increase cultural engagement by working in partnership with our community and be relevant and responsive to their needs. There's a lot more detail about that in the plan itself. There's a whole heap of actions attached to those aims, and there's a plan of how we're going to manage that with our existing staff and resources. If you have any questions, please ask. If you want to come and see the museum, come and I'll show you around. But I would like you very much to adopt this board plan.
Councillor Creighton.
Thank you very much, Alison. I've actually been a few times to the museum. I've been a few times to the museum. I refer to it a bit like the TARDIS of the museum world, because you just don't think, because there's so much in there. And it really is pretty impressive. I was particularly impressed when I got photographs of the prisoners of the 19th century, the 19th century. They were really good. And very much looking forward to the turn up. And so that's going to be very good. One of my favourite artists, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I would encourage as many people, councillors, as possible to go there. You use social media to encourage people to go to it. It's good to hear that you said the attendance figure are now back to pre-COVID levels.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good. And thank you very much for the report.
Councillor Howard, please.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to add as my tribute to the museum, because I was very fortunate in being seconded to the Museum's Advisory Board last year to represent North Devon Council, and I was even more pleased to be elected chair. I worked myself in museums regionally for 35 years, and I hope I got my eye in as to what makes a good museum. And we certainly have a gem here in Barnstaple. One of the things about being a curator, I think, is that it's a dynamic balance between serving the collections and serving the public. And I think Alison and her team have a real passion for outreach and for projecting the collection as widely as possible and creating exhibitions which have a terrific reach into North Devon and its people. They are very exceptional, and I feel she's assembled a really interesting advisory board which covers a whole lot of areas, age groups and different disciplines and ethnicities and all the right things. So I'd like to propose that we approve the excellent forward plan.
Yeah, and can I have a show of hands for that, please?
Business with
Now move on to item 19, the appointment of a Jackson electoral registration officer.
Ken's going to
Thank you, Chair. Under legislation, every local authority has to appoint one of its officers as the electoral registration officer, and I am that officer for the district, as well as the returning officer. The function of appointing a deputy electoral registration officer falls under legislation to full council, but I'm seeking delegated powers to appoint a deputy from time to time. You did appoint a deputy back in 2022, I think it was, which was head of governance. What I'm proposing to do is to appoint the deputy who will be the senior electoral services officer, Debbie. But I think it's useful to appoint further deputies from time to time as when the need arises. As electoral registration officer, it's my responsibility and my function to agree to people being put on the electoral register. And in the run-up to the last election, And we had a number of people coming forward claiming that they should be on the register, and we had to make determinations there and then as to whether they should be or not. There is a right of appeal against those decisions, and that's why it's crucial to have a deputy in place so that they can hear any appeal against any decision that I make. And that's why I think it's useful to have more than one deputy from time to time. So the recommendation is to grant the self-delegated powers to appoint a deputy from time to time. But in this particular case, it is likely to be the electoral services officer. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? We have moved Councillor Warden, Councillor Top, Councillor second. Okay, all those in favour?
Thank you, members.
Item 20 is the Ilfracombe Public Spaces Protection Audit Extension report by Darren.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. This hopefully is very short because I know it's been a long night for most of you. So we carried out a consultation following a lot rise in street drinking attached within the Ilfracombe area. There has been police reports, and our ASB teams are working alongside those in the community and trying to encourage them and work with supporting agencies. Unfortunately, the street drinkers had found some areas within Ilfracombe that was excluded from the PSPO that members agreed back in July. We were mindful of the idea of just pushing the street drinkers further and further away from Ilfracombe into the extremities. But given the prominence of the beach areas within Ilfracombe, become quite clear that they were affecting our tourism and the local community. So therefore, after the consultation, we found that we had 95% support in terms of that extension. There were comments from support agencies in relation to us working alongside those communities, and we are engaged to continue doing that. And since that time, our head of service, Nina Lake, has met with some of the support agencies and with bodies that are placing people in the community without giving them adequate support. So we remain determined to stay alongside that. Part of the requirement of the public space protection orders is to keep them as small as possible. We shouldn't be just blanketly doing the whole of the district in terms of public space protection orders. So therefore, the inclusion of the beaches should be sufficient in terms of meeting that requirement, but also to tackle those problems. Hopefully, members have seen that small in terms of the areas. We've only included those 3 small areas of the beaches to keep it as small as possible, and also giving the support to the wardens and also the training of the people that are coming in with that. Councillor York mentioned the webinar coming up about street attached, and I think it's quite useful for members to actually take part of that, because that is really useful in understanding the challenges that some of us face in terms of offering support and getting these people where they need to be. So the recommendation is to support the extension. So hope members can do that. But from there, if you've got any questions, I'll have to go.
Do we have any questions? Could I have a move, please? Councillor Crabbe, seconder. Councillor Brent. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 21 is the North Evans Torridge Economic Strategy 2024-29. Report by
Good evening, councillors. Appreciate it's been quite a long, varied agenda, so I will try and report succinctly as possible on the new emerging economic strategy. It is a shared strategy with Torridge Council, so I have co-written this with my colleague over in Torridge, Chris Fuller. I think the importance of having an economic strategy is to show that us as local authorities have a leadership role to support our local business community.
but hope that what's coming across in the strategy that we've actually presented to you this evening is that actually the economy can't work in isolation. You've got to have really good housing, you've got to have a really strong education system, right from primary and childcare all the way up to a college and hopefully university provision. Aspirationally, has been touched on in previous speakers for young people to stay here and fulfill a career in creative industries, in clean maritime, in manufacturing, in farming and tourism, which are two of the bedrocks of our actual economy here in North Devon and Torridge. The economic strategy sets out a couple of key metrics that are persistently low in terms of UK and Devon figures. So looking at skills, salaries and productivity output from our area, unfortunately we are plagued with low rankings in those and have been for quite some time. So we have selected those as 4 key metric areas that we want to look at and focus on this economic period. There is, however, a supporting baseline document which our colleague from North Devon Plus, John Vernon, has prepared for us. This is a compilation of mostly open data source statistics around economy, and actually it shows us as North Devon Torridge against Devon figures and in most cases England figures. So you can get a sort of flavour and a sense of where we sit in terms of economic performance. We have got some areas of growth and we have actually highlighted in the strategy some cluster areas. Now, that's not to say that other kind of sectors of the economy aren't important to us and we'll continue working them, but I think the clusters that we've pulled out are either traditionally our largest economic base here or emerging new sectors that we really want to sort of promote here and that we feel Torridge and North Devon are really well placed to promote. So I think that the 2 sort of areas that we're really pushing as new growth areas are the clean maritime and green energy, and also the creative industries. And Alison's doing a great job for me in providing a good base for that cultural activity to really demonstrate to young people that there is kind of a promising future that they can have here in North Devon when it comes to those sectors. I think in terms of the kind of the rest of the report or the strategy, there are some cross-cutting themes also that we've highlighted. There's a really strong manufacturing base here that cuts across a lot of the individual cluster sectors that we have actually talked about. So manufacturing accounts for a large percentage of the employment here in North Devon and Torridge, and some of our largest more strategic businesses are actually in those sectors. Technology also, we've touched on it even in our own kind of authority, how we're looking to use technology to bring in efficiencies and to kind of use new technology for innovations in service delivery. Our manufacturing companies are already doing that. Farmers are already ahead doing that. Tourism is now looking to start doing that. So I think technology is a cross-cutting theme. We've still got some issues around connectivity, and in some of our sort of more rural areas, that connectivity still needs to be looked at in terms of ensuring that there is broadband access there for those that wish to use it. I think in terms of the strategy then and the baselining report that goes with it, I would ask that members consider that and approve it so that we can actually move forward to action plans. So this is the high level vision and our leadership role of where we wish to take our economy. There will be action plans that fall out of that. And actually some of that work is already starting around the creative industries and cultural activity. So we've heard about the Farming the Policy Committee actions. I know there are actions that have come out of that, so we can look at how we incorporate that into a kind of a larger action plan under the agricultural food and drink cluster. So that would be the next steps. Not by way of any persuasion, but I will mention that the Torridge Council sat on Monday and have reviewed and adopted the economic strategy. They did suggest a couple of very minor tweaks, which I don't know if it's appropriate to mention here, but it will probably go into the final document, which you won't have seen yet because it only held on Monday. It was a very minor one. They were keen on us to sort of mention more fully heritage tourism as a key aspiration that links with our creative and cultural aspirations. They were also aware that it's really important that we support Petroc. We're here in one of their new buildings this evening. Petroc are going through a period of change. Industry haven't always worked comfortably with Petroc, and we're really trying to sort of change those relationships. So there was just an aspiration that we perhaps mentioned Petroc more in here as a college rather than the university centre, which they are establishing. That does get quite a few mentions in the strategy. So they are the two slight amendments that the Torridge Council have asked us to make, which shouldn't change the overall direction, but it will just bring those two issues to the fore. So
Just very briefly on that point for the bank, I strongly suggest that members give delegated powers to the head of base property and regeneration to make those minor changes should you adopt the strategy tonight. Because it's really important that the two documents, or the document, sorry, it goes through both councils, is exactly the same. So if you could grant delegated powers to the officers in consultation with the leader and the lead member, then it would just be those minor changes just to the two decisions of the council.
Councillor Brown, would like to say a few words.
Chair, it sounds obvious, but actually to have a decent strategy, we need to actually have that baseline document, which is really, really good and thorough, but quite frightening in two areas. One of them is as Dominic has already mentioned, that skills level. The other thing is the age profile, because no community can survive and prosper if we let that carry on. Torridge mentioned about Petroc. We must get more involved in making sure Petroc is secure and flourishes. I think as two local authorities, that should be a crucial priority of ours from now. Having said that, I just wanted to mention back when I was trustee councillor, the idea was you just allocate great big chunks of land, call them employment sites, and then go bidding for a city area status or European funding, and hopefully you can persuade somebody to pack up in the home counties and come down. Well, that ain't going to happen anymore. So this idea of allocating things in clusters, showing flexibility, showing a strategy that says we will encourage it, not in a particular place, but everywhere. Rural areas, urban areas, and we had that debate last week, the working group for the local plan. We need to have flexible plans coming forward in our new local plan that encourage enterprise more openly and more upfront. And hopefully we can then make the delivery arm of this strategy more effective. But I just want to pay tribute to Dom and to Chris Fuller. It's a fantastic document. It's easy to read. It's attractive. Anybody with my attention, I can understand exactly where it's going. And it's, I'm very proud to be the portfolio holder. I said earlier on my team, but well done, Dom. And I'd like to propose that we adopt it in principle and agree with the suggestion of Ken that delegate the minor changes to the head of base in Gloucester. But thank you very much, Tom.
Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn. Hi, Dominic. Thank you very much for this. Sorry, I've lost my voice. I'm sure most people. Off the back of the words from Councillor Prowse. I like that South Malta's Parsfield Business Park be recognised in the economic strategy, because that has recently had an extension to it, which sold out almost immediately. That was done by the town council. So there is a need for employment and industrial land in South Malton, and I note that on page 185 it isn't noted as an industrial estate. I think there's great potential for that to expand and have greater employment within the town.
Great.
Wilson, yeah, I need to be in touch.
Yeah, there's 10,000 steps there.
Hello, thank you, Dominic. As everyone else said, great strategy. It's just a small thing. I'm sure you've probably already thought of this, but now that onshore wind has been released as a potential, is there scope to include that in this strategy at this late stage? Just consideration.
Councillor Price, are you okay to take that on board? Councillor Beaman.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I forgot about that. I was going to second Councillor Price's, Councillor Price's movement. I don't again. Sorry, and nobody has. I did have a couple of questions. I didn't condone petrol. I mean, I think it is important to look at how we can, it's difficult to know how we as a council can encourage it, but I think one of the things you talk to most of our people are very, very small businesses, even self-employed people, and taking on an apprentice seems to be a massive barrier to supporting apprentices. So, I know it's probably DCC or North Devon Council, but I think to me that's something we need to look at. How we support those really small businesses to be able to take on apprentices, because that is the opportunity. And it's quite frightening when we look at how many of our young people are sort of not employed, 10% somewhere along that line. But as Malcolm said, Tommy, you and your team, you are doing an incredible job. I think councillors really appreciate it. We want to support it. But my main reason for indicating to speak was to second Malcolm's whatever you did. You proposed it. That's it. You proposed it.
Councillor Denton asking to speak.
Okay. I just like. I was trying to say, yeah, great report, thanks. Thing with that is obviously there are a lot of changes going on in Petroc. As you know, some people might not know how many redundancies have been happening again. At the moment, all the heads have changed, heads have gone. And I was up here, I first started working here in 2002. And I was here for 16 years in construction. And when I left, I was the manager of the built environment. That room, at the height of it, had 12 people in there, lecturers. Now there's 2. That's in the construction area. I came up here to do a course, a CMI course, earlier this summer, and I was shocked at how dead it was up here. It is a total loss and a miscarriage of judgment, justice. For the last, I'll get it right. For the last 10 years or more. For 10 years, it's been redundancies.
Can I just remind you, we are in part A and this is being recorded.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So my thing is that we need to sort of hold the new management to sort of justice, as it were, and maybe the old judgment, and the old people, because we have been let down. Because the main thing of all of what's in this report needs support from training and obviously education and a higher level, like it was at North Devon. This was up North Devon for all the training, and now we've been let down, and so we need to build it back up and support it to get better. I don't know how that's going to happen, but obviously some of our talent and money. Hopefully. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Bell, you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add in regards to Councillor Bushell's comment regarding things that could be added to this economic strategy. Tiverton Parkway railway station. I think possibly this Councillor Warden would say that people in South Molton, as well as people wanting to get to London in a bit of a hurry, are more likely to use Tiverton Parkway than they are to use our own railway station, simply because although beautiful and scenic, an hour and 10 minutes to get to Exeter to then take the slow train to London is far less efficient than the very good car park they have at Tiverton Parkway. And I'm aware that we are being recorded, so Ace Rail may have something to add to this. Not playing friendly, but yes, it is a for many people wanting to get on business in other parts of the area or in other parts of the country, Tiverton Parkway is the way to go. And I think that is something that's quite important to people in this area.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations to Dominic and her team for a fantastic economic strategy we have before us. I've got to admit, I'm not sure whether this is in there, but I'm sure you will correct me. I have reason to go to Chipman Cross. You may have noticed a lot of people that there are loads of units going up every few weeks. There's a few more, and I had to go down there to the car repair, and I couldn't believe how many businesses there are down there. They're quite, a lot of them are small business, a lot of small business, and they're all related. And I think this is a good sign for North Devon. I think maybe the smaller businesses seem to be increasing more than the major ones. But I just wanted it noted how pleasing it was to see the activity down there already. Thank you.
Chair, is actually mentioning that. Councillor Mills.
Thank you. I'm pretty well shaped at my proposal. I got a dog on this.
I'm working my way down.
No, just compliment you, Dominic. Thank you for the report. Excellent report, and I think its format recognises really well the complexity of the economics of North Devon. Really appreciate it. I think the approach taken to develop the action plans will be how its success hinges. I think we need to look at that. We need to contribute carefully. And as I did mention earlier on, there's been considerable work already. I think that needs to continue. The only comment I would make is that we have seen recently, with changing political times, there will be changing economic times. We need to have the opportunity as the strategy develops to be able to regularly review to ensure that we continue to head in the right direction with it.
Okay, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, just briefly, we've touched on the importance of education. We've also touched on the importance of connectivity in terms of Tiverton Parkway and transport. Although it's such a county, it's an important point to remind you at the moment in our ward, we have a horrendous issue with public transport and buses. That means that people can't get to college courses, can't get to their work, and this is all having a big impact. And it's something that we really do need to work really hard on. We brought our county council brought a motion, he brought a petition to county last week, and I think it's something that we all need to be supportive as well, because if people can't get it, it really is a serious issue.
And Councillor York.
Yeah, again, connectivity and railways. So earlier this year, the North Devon Railway Development Alliance was formed. It is an annual meeting. There were members of all the local councils and various Network Rail, various high-level railway people. The idea is that not only will there be extensions to Bideford, but the actual existing line to Exeter will be improved. Railway journeys on our existing pipeline have increased, I think, the highest, I dare say, in the country. I'm not sure that's quite right, but it's certainly a huge increase. And there is definitely a need for faster, bigger trains on that line. So there will be improvements. I'm not sure when, and I'm not sure which of the two projects are the priority, but those are things that they're looking at in their working groups. So hopefully there will be alternatives just to. Thank you.
Okay, we can move to the vote. These to accept the economic strategy with the advisor working with voting powers. As already proposed by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Beedman. All those in favour? Harry, item 22, Dominic.
Sorry, me again. So swiftly moving on from the approved economic strategy, I mentioned the clusters and the falling out of that, the sort of action plans, so that we can deliver, and we will have sort of monitoring targets against those. One of the newer areas of opportunity that we may see coming to North Devon and Torridge is around clean maritime and sort of floating offshore wind, green energy in all its sort of guises. So alongside Torridge, again, we're a contiguous economic zone. We have really do things on our own. So we have worked with Torridge to pull together a kind of a first action plan which sits under the cluster around clean maritime and green energy. We felt that we needed to do this one now because of the immediacy of the opportunities, particularly around the Celtic Sea, floating offshore wind. The Crown Estate are moving forward with their leasing round 5. They are very close to our shores, and so a lot of the developers, floating offshore wind developers, who are acting in that arena are looking at North Devon and Torridge. We do know that there will be some onshoring of the energy to Alberdiscot. So we are felt that we needed to act now to sort of set out as an area what the opportunities could be here in North Devon and Torridge, and start almost setting that out to developers so that they don't sort of just come in and act in isolation from us again. As sort of governors and leaders of our economy, we want to ensure that the right type of potential development does land on our shores if any comes this way. So I think the document, as we've set it out, it does a couple of things. One is around showing what's already here. So you may be aware over in Bideford, we already have one of the largest sort of UK-based seaweed farms there. They have aspirations of growth. We've already got the investment going into a clean maritime innovation centre. We've got Cullen and Wolff in the area who are also looking at clean propulsion for shipping. So we've got the Ilfracombe Sea School, which is growing up and developing. It's got sort of phased approach to become a lot sort of larger and offering seafaring qualifications and skills. So we've already got a lot going on here that the Crown Estate in particular are looking into our area and kind of they're appreciating that our business community are also coming together and starting to look at what opportunities they might be able to get from this. So we have put together this vision. So we haven't called it an action plan, we've called it more of a vision because it is sort of dealing with some nascent sectors which we're not sure how they're going to pan out here yet. We are to a degree at the mercy of developers, but we felt it was important that we sort of showed them the sort of growth that we would like to see here. So it does cover various areas from aquaculture to clean propulsion to environmental intelligence and floating offshore wind, green hydrogen. So these are all areas that are existing manufacturing base we also be part of, and we are looking at working with North Devon Plus to sort of get our businesses ready to take any opportunities that might come forward in terms of contracts. So that is how we've set out this initial cluster action plan. And so we'd like to sort of bring that forward to you this evening, again for adoption as one of the front-running action plans for the economic schools.
Any questions? Councillor Jones.
Can I seek clarity when we refer to agriculture that we don't talk about fish farming? Because obviously with a very, very fragile ecosystem and challenges that our salmon population sees, I just want reassurance that we're not talking about commercial fish farms.
No, we're not. No, sorry, not in this document. No.
Councillor Ricky now.
Lovely, thank you. Another fantastically readable and attractive visual report. So, Aquaculture Shipyard has managed to weather the economic storms over the last few decades, and the miracle is still there, but it's an essential ingredient of our maritime vision and clean propulsion shipbuilding. for service vessels, for instance, for the Evony, Celtic Array, very exciting in terms of the hydrogen-powered offshore boats. But it seems that Carl and Wolf are having real difficulties there in that. Well, they're looking for financial support, and I wondered if you were aware of that. Any comments, and to what extent might there be a plan B? Because we're worried if they go down.
I think just in quick response to that, because they are based in Torridge, it would be our sort of Torridge economic team that were looking into that and working very closely. I know they have a very close relationship with Harland and Wolff, so I think it would be sort of their plan. We would, I mean, when they previously went through a restructuring and their operations did drop off, there was a task force that did include North Devon, because obviously some of the workforce that were being laid off from there did reside in our area. So we would come together and discuss that, but I think Torridge would need to take the lead on that as it's their business.
Chair, can I move the adoption of this report? And I think it's very, I mean, Ken and I often have this debate, and we do get hot under the collars with our partners across the water, but we're still great friends. As far as I'm concerned, if there are lots of new jobs in Torridge, great, because we're one economy. And I think, you know, we recognise they have some strengths and we have some strengths. And I think it's not a competition, and this document just shows that it's really a blueprint for partnership, what I'm saying, I think. And if they've got levelling up funds, great. Let's make sure that we take advantage of that as well, because half the employees that end up in any of these innovative outfits will come from North Devon for sure. You're only going to go to the 839 and watch the back and flow. You know, we're one economy. I've moved this and say what an exciting opportunity we've got. We're talking about offshore wind. I hope we've overcome that today, because last time there was a serious proposition. There were lots of NIMBYs are very much in fashion at the moment, aren't they, with the Queen's Speech, King's Speech. But I really think that offshore wind is such an opportunity. We've got to put some of our old prejudice away. I spent a long time campaigning against wind farms on land, and I know realize that I was wrong. And I'm prepared to admit I was. And I think the same as offshore. We've got to get on, embrace it, try to overcome the problems rather than find obstacles, which seems to be the way of recent months. So, you know, I welcome this. I hope we as community leaders can help deliver the things that the opportunities this report has highlighted.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Thank you, Dan. I was in support of this. I do have to speak for the residents of my community who are on the NIMBYs, who do have major concern about some of our offshore wind proposals. But they've been really quite badly handled by companies, and the consultation process has been really flawed. And I think we feel not listened to, not heard, and that we don't have a voice. And I don't think that's a terribly good way to go about selling what potentially is great for the local economy. But you know, that I do have reservations about how things have been handled, and I do think that people need to have a voice, and not necessarily, you know, I don't think any of my residents have said they are against offshore wind. I think they are just concerned about how things are being conducted, and I'd just like to make that point.
I could just, recognise that there are active proposals at the moment in North Devon for a demonstration site. So that is a much smaller and separate process to the Celtic Sea offshore wind, which isn't likely to onshore in North Devon boundaries. That's likely to go to either Pembrokeshire or Alberdiscot. So the issues we've had around the demonstration site at Whitecross aren't likely to be replicated in this instance because we wouldn't see that onshoring. But I think it's still a very valid point that we're aware of with all of these emerging sectors. Green hydrogen is another one that kind of can provoke some fear and concern in kind of people. So I think we do recognise that there's a lot of education and community engagement to be done, so that actually there is that kind of understanding of what's about to happen in the area, and to make sure that we have that positive dialogue right from the start so that people can air any concerns, but then there is sort of that response that can be forthcoming so that we don't end up with a situation where the community does feel that they've been sort of done to and not listened to with their concerns. So we are very mindful of that. So we will be very careful with the way in which we sort of promote this and work within communities that may be directed. That is noted. Thank you.
Catherine.
I basically just really wanted to second the proposition that Councillor Prowse put forward, and to echo the comments that he made. I think this is quite exciting, and I hope we'll all support it.
Those in favour? No. Thank you. Right, item 23A. Item 23 is the minutes of committee meetings. Are we happy to take these on block, members? Yes. Okay, so do I have a proposer? That's Orange, seconder. That's the tops. All those in favour? That's carried. That's now close the meeting. Thank you very much.